We have a lot to cover on this episode of the MeidasTouch Podcast. You have Donald Trump returning to Washington, D.C. after another weekend of vacationing and golfing and being caught cheating. Donald Trump claims he scored a 69 on an 18-hole course, which means he would have had the greatest score in the history of the world for anybody of his age. We'll break that down. But he returned and said everything is rigged. The jobs report is rigged, just like the election is rigged. But he's like, Sydney Sweeney, she's really hot. She's got hot ads. She's a Republican, everybody. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about what's going on in Texas, the unlawful gerrymandering scheme by Donald Trump and the MAGA Republican Governor Greg Abbott and the MAGA Republicans there. The Democratic state representatives left the state of Texas. They're under the protection of the governor of Illinois right now, not giving the MAGA Republicans in Texas the quorum needed for them to hold an emergency session to try to change the map to eliminate 5 Democratic congressional districts. Earlier today, the MAGA Republicans in the Texas legislature voted to arrest all of the Democratic state representatives in Illinois and to remove them from their jobs. We'll break down what's going on there. Donald Trump got relentlessly booed at a WWE event that took place this weekend in New Jersey. WWE fans used to go like 90-10 in favor of Donald Trump, and when his image was put on the big screen there with Triple H, he was booed throughout that event. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about Donald Trump's disastrous trade war against the world, continuing to spiral out of control. We learned today from South Korea that indeed there is no deal for them to give the United States a $450 billion signing bonus. Just like Japan, just like the European Union, South Korea is saying, nope. There's no guarantee. There's no binding agreement. It is a discretionary high interest loan, and it's at our discretion to give it to the United States or not. As I've said before, Trump's done 0 deals. And how do I know that? We've never seen a piece of paper that is a deal with terms on it. Social media posts after Donald Trump talks about Sydney Sweeney being hot, or Donald Trump saying everything is rigged. That is not a deal. And then we should talk about some footage the MeidasTouch Network unearthed earlier today. It's footage from 2006 of Donald Trump talking about underage girls, beautiful 17-year-old inexperienced underage girls. He said that he can't control himself like an alcoholic. He described the way he looks at girls like the way alcoholics look at booze, and he did like a weird shaking gesture. And he said that he hired an underage 17-year-old girl for his airplane or maybe she was 18 or 17. He didn't know the age because of the way she looked. And he was told, Mr. Trump, she has no experience. And he goes, I don't care. Have you seen her? I'm like an alcoholic with these girls. We'll talk about that and more. Let's bring in Brett and Jordy. Also, a very successful event in Phoenix, Arizona, that we did with MoveOn. Adam Mockler hosted that event. You had Senator Murphy, Congresswoman Crockett, Congresswoman Ansari there. On August 23rd, we're going to be in Omaha, Nebraska. So for everybody in Omaha, it's called the Won't Back Down Tour. Go to won'tbackdowntour.com. Reserve your place. We're there August 23rd now in Omaha. A reminder to everybody who lives in that area. Brett and Jordy, how you doing?
Doing well. It's time to hit the pavement, folks. I mean, these stakes are far too high. We know Donald Trump is a fraud. We know he is a felon. We know that Donald Trump is a criminal. What I think we didn't realize years and years ago is how quickly an entire party could be taken down those same criminal paths. And that's what we are seeing with this Republican Party, who instead of pushing back against the fraud, against the lies, against the deceit, they have embraced all the tactics that got Donald Trump indicted for those crimes, that got Donald Trump convicted of those crimes. That is the entire Republican Party right now. They are a criminal racket in every sense of the word. And as you're watching the various moves that they take, right now, our government, especially, with the Republican Party kind of leading all aspects of government right now, they are existing in a area, a time where truth does not matter. They just make things up. They make up lies all the time. They live in this alternate universe, and they expect that we accept their fake reality right now. And I'm not saying we're heading in this direction. I'm not saying we're close to this direction. I'm saying the United States right now at this current moment looks and resembles far more of North Korea, of Russia, than it does an actual democracy. I'd go as far as to say that we are not a democracy, that we are living in an authoritarian country right now, and we have limited time periods, limited moments where we can push back. The midterms are going to be one of those moments, and these fights that we are seeing across the country right now are all of these moments, and that's why we see the Republican Party right now trying to take all of these moves in order to end that for good, to silence your voice for good. So now is the time that we need everybody to be engaged. We need everybody to be sharing exactly what is going on, to be sounding the alarms, to be calling out the fraud and the deceit that we see on a daily basis. We're going to break it all down in today's episode. It's great to be here with Ben and Jordy and everybody listening and watching. If you're watching on YouTube, remember, go ahead and listen to the MeidasTouch podcast on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. If you've done that already, please leave a 5-star review and share the show with a friend. If you're listening, go and check us out on YouTube. We have new reports throughout the day, every single day. Jordy, what's the latest?
Hey, I'm excited to get into today's show. We have a lot of ground to cover, but Brett, I do want to build on that. So folks, I was looking at our Apple ratings, and you guys are just crushing it right now on the audio reviews. So thank you. We're at 44,000+ reviews right now on Apple. And I want to get to that 50,000 mark. So it takes less than 5 seconds to go. If you're listening to the show on audio right now, just go rank it 5 stars. If you think we deserve 5 stars, let's cross that 50,000 review mark. I'm stoked. I know the Meidas Mighty could get us there within the week. So we're at 44,000 now. Let's see if we can get to 50,000 reviews by this time next week. Benji, where do you want to start us off today?
The first thing Donald Trump did this morning as he returned to Washington, D.C. from another vacation on the taxpayer dime at his golf course in Bedminster is he posted the following: last week's job report was rigged. And he puts rigged in all caps, just like the numbers prior to the presidential election were rigged. That's why in both cases, there was massive record-setting revisions in favor of the radical left Democrats. Those big adjustments were made to cover up and level out the fake political numbers that were concocted in order to make a great Republican success look less stellar. I will pick an exceptional replacement. Thank you for your attention to this matter. MAGA exclamation point. I lead with this because this post probably won't really get much attention on any cable news network or in any major newspaper across the country. I guarantee you that if any former president made a post like this, immediately there would be a call for the 25th Amendment. And by the way, I probably would be someone who would say, yeah, that's a pretty insane post right there. But with Donald Trump, this behavior is normalized. And I talk about this from the outset because it should never be out. It should never be normalized. Donald Trump whining about past elections. Also, Donald Trump today ordering his Department of Justice, which they did, to impanel a grand jury to go after Obama and people in Obama's administration from 2016, because Donald Trump says the biggest hoax that we should be focused on right now, and the biggest issue that we should be focused on right now is we should be focused on the Russia hoax, as he calls it. And he goes, he was set up in 2016 by Obama and Comey and all of these people, and they need to be criminally prosecuted. Well, a grand jury was just impaneled to see criminal prosecutions of his political enemies right now, because Trump says, I've had no connection with Russia. We heard you say, Russia, if you're listening, find the emails and bring them to me. You can hack into those emails. And we see how Donald Trump behaves right now with Vladimir Putin. And again, this is just a head fake to try to get people not to focus on Donald Trump's dark past with Epstein, the fact that Donald Trump has transferred Ghislaine Maxwell now from the facility in Tallahassee to a minimum security facility in Camp Bryan, Texas, a minimum security facility that's kind of like a summer camp, basically. Ghislaine Maxwell's supporters, who, by the way, are people with VIP access to Donald Trump, they're saying this is part of the path. Her name is Jessica Reed Krause, for example. Free Ghislaine Maxwell shirt. She's one of the people at the White House who held the phase 1 Epstein binders back in February. She's saying, from what she hears, and she's super close to Ghislaine and she's super close to Trump, that Ghislaine being moved to Camp Bryan, Texas, is part of the process of basically having her then go to home confinement and then fully releasing her, either a commutation or a pardon, and helping her. So Trump's impaneling the grand jury now to go after his political rivals. He doesn't want to release the Epstein file, so he thinks we're going to all fall for that. He's saying the job numbers are rigged and elections are rigged and everything is rigged. And then he posts the following as well. Sydney Sweeney, a registered Republican, has the hottest ad out there. It's for American Eagle, and the jeans are flying off the shelves. Go get them, Sydney. On the other side of the ledger, Jaguar did a stupid and seriously woke advertisement. That is a disaster. The CEO just resigned. The company's in turmoil. Shouldn't they have learned a lesson from Bud Light, which went woke and essentially destroyed in a short but very woke campaign the company? The market cap destruction has been unprecedented. Billions of dollars lost. Or just look at the woke singer Taylor Swift. Ever since I alerted the world as to what she was saying on Truth, or what she's been saying on Truth, that I can't stand her. What in the world are you even talking about right there? And so as Donald Trump's ranting and raving and saying that the job numbers are rigged and everything's rigged against him and whining like that, what does Donald Trump do as he's heading back to DC? He claims that he's already reduced healthcare costs. Today, he says, they're reduced by 1,200, 1,300, 1,400, 1,500%, he says. Here, play this clip.
Mr. President, what advice do you have for Republicans on Capitol Hill heading into midterms? What do they need to do? What can they do to, hold?
Well, one of the things they're going to be talking about pretty soon are the tremendous drop in drug prices. We've cut drug prices by 1,200, 1,300, 1,400, 1,500%. I don't mean 50%. I mean 1,400, 1,500%. Because we're going favored nations. We want the same price as Europe gets. We want the same price as other country gets. And over the years, 25, 30 years ago, it started where they were charging us much more.
Well, that's not happening. Your drug prices have not been reduced 1,500%, nor is that
would mean they're paying us. They're paying us to take trucks.
Exact. That's not the way percentages work. But I just want you to think about the snake oil salesman he is. He's saying all these other numbers are rigged, but I've reduced drug prices 1,500%. And Brett, to your point, yeah, you would be paying us money to the drug manufacturers. And then Donald Trump says, Sydney Sweeney, she's a Republican. Oh, I like her. I like her. Here, play this clip.
If Sydney Sweeney is a registered Republican, I think her ad is fantastic. Okay.
I think her ad is fantastic. And here's what he said when he's asked about Laura Loomer, the conspiracy theorist, overall just person who spews vile hate. She locked herself to the door of the old Twitter headquarters because, she was a hateful troll who, when Twitter had moderation, they banned her. And she's like, I'm like a Holocaust victim. And she wore a Star of David and she was crying. So now she goes to the State Department and she's one of the people who are advising Donald Trump and this regime on policies, who to hire, who to fire. Here's what Trump says about her. Here, play this clip.
Mr. President, what is your relationship with Laura Loomer? What kind of influence with Laura Loomer? What kind of influence does she have in the White House?
I think she's very nice. I mean, I know she's known as a radical right, but I think Laura Loomer is a very nice person. I've known her for a long time. And, personally, I think she's a patriot. And she gets excited because of the fact that she's a patriot. And she doesn't like things going on that she thinks are bad for the country. I like her. Okay?
President, actress Sydney Sweeney.
As recently as the past 2 years, she says 9/11 was an inside job. Regarding former Vice President Kamala Harris during the election, Loomer wrote, "If Kamala Harris wins, the White House will smell like curry, and White House speeches will be facilitated via a call center, and the American people will only be able to convey their feedback through a customer satisfaction survey at the end of the call that nobody will understand." And she quote tweeted former Vice President Kamala Harris, showing a photo of her family and saying, "As a young girl visiting my grandparents in India, my grandfather took me on his morning walks." Laura Loomer also said in July 2024 about Kamala Harris that she can't keep her mouth away from married men. It's called giving head to get ahead. My dog's mouth is cleaner after she gets done licking her own asshole than Kamala Harris's mouth is. Kamala Harris is nasty. Trump is right. It's time for Republicans to start talking about Kamala Harris's sexual history. A woman who has no biological children of her own should not be allowed to make decisions in the White House for your children. Let me bring Brett and Jordy back in.
Patriot.
These are the types of people.
Patriot. It's a patriot.
These
right
are
there.
the people who are being elevated. As I always said, this shouldn't be a red or blue or Democrat or Republican. This is good or evil types of stuff. And where do you stand, Brett?
That's exactly what I was going to say. As we go through this episode and we speak about everything from, Trump to what's happening in Texas to elevating people like Laura Loomer, or the Free Ghislaine movement that exists within the MAGA party at this moment. And yes, that's a thing. Like, in case you guys didn't know, there is a section of the MAGA Republicans who is actively working to try to free Ghislaine Maxwell. Obviously, we see Trump doing that basically out in the open, but there are people who are saying that is their actual objective. But we are just going to see throughout all of these stories that we report on that the people that we are dealing with right now on the Republican side are just pure evil. And I don't think enough folks in this country quite realize that. I think obviously our listeners and viewers see this every single day. But I think a lot of people still think it's kind of business as usual in our politics. And the media sure is covering everything like it's business as usual in our politics. And it's just not. And I'm not going to sit here and be gaslighted into thinking that it's business as usual. And they pull all of these various distractions and all this other stuff to further divide the American people. And it just really drives me crazy. Like the Sydney Sweeney story, for example, is something that honestly, like I don't even think it's like necessarily worth speaking about. But the fact that the right wing and Fox and Trump are now using this kind of BS story to try to change the narrative and change the conversation, it is worth us calling it out. I don't need to do a full refresher course on the Sydney Sweeney ad, but she did an American Eagle campaign that was a play on words of the word jeans. Sydney Sweeney has great jeans, and it was a very popular ad. And then there were people online who were saying, her talking about her jeans, is that like eugenics? Is that like Nazi-ish? And then there was kind of this online discussion, which then the media picked up and ran with, oh, look at these libs. They hate Sydney Sweeney because she's hot, was basically like the thing. And Fox has been running with this, and Trump has been running with this, and it's been a whole thing on the right. But this is, I want to flag this for this reason, because this is a common way that Trump and this Republican Party try to label Democrats as something that they're not, or label what they say the left is as something that they're not, and try to create these narratives to divide the American people and to try to make it seem like Democrats are somehow crazy or out of touch. I mean, this is why, if you turn on Fox right now, they are speaking about the Sydney Sweeney story as if it is the biggest issue facing the country. Like, it is 85% plus of their coverage. I'm not even kidding. Like, people are looking at the amount they're talking about the story, and it's why you see Trump speaking about it. But time and time again, we see the same pattern when these cultural issues happen. And these cultural issues are ways, essentially, that Republicans, MAGA, Fox, they use these moments to brainwash people, to try to pull them into their camps. And so essentially it follows this familiar pattern that I'm sure you've all seen, where a big cultural moment happens in the country. A lot of people are speaking about it. There's a lot of chatter online with just a bunch of random people, right? Algorithms are pushing various kind of points of view to the top of people's feeds. You see things on TikTok. You see random people on TikTok whining like the way random people on TikTok and Twitter whine about quite literally everything. Then you see the media jump on it and they write a story based on tweets. Not really based on what people are saying in their day-to-day conversations, what people are necessarily concerned about in their lives, but they'll assemble some tweets, they'll assemble some TikToks, and they will talk about how people are outraged at this thing to try to then get clicks off a viral moment. That's kind of phase 2 in it. Then you see the right-wing media, they come in and they blame the left and Democrats for all of the outrage that has kind of been manufactured by the media. And they make this a big thing. Look how, silly the left is. Look at these Democrats. They're out of touch. When meanwhile, these posts that we see and these TikToks and these tweets are just like a bunch of random people on the internet. Nobody knows their political beliefs. They're not associated with a political party. They're not people in the Democratic power structure. It's none of that. Meanwhile, you get the craziest of the crazy people actually running the country. Case in point, Donald Trump is the freaking president of the United States, okay? And then you could go down the list to creepy Mike Johnson. You could go down to Marjorie Taylor Greene. You could go down to the guy who was watching porn on his computer or whatever in Oklahoma, who then blamed it on the woke Democrats that he was watching porn, who bought the Trump Bible to do in his school. You could go down the list of all the most reprehensible people in the country who are in real positions of power. But the way that Republicans and Fox deflect from their extremism and from their craziness is to try to recenter people's attention on basically ghosts. Look at all these libs. Look at all these Democrats. It's basically the libs of TikTok philosophy. It's the way a lot of these accounts operate. And so my message to everybody here is don't fall into these cultural traps. Now, whether you fall into them or you don't fall into them, it doesn't really matter to Fox. They're going to conjure up this narrative anyway, but there's no need to give them any more, material to use here. This is what they're going to do. I just want to identify the strategies that they use, because this is the strategy that they use now for at least the past 4 years and probably, far beyond that. And that's why there are so many Americans who get their news casually from social media who have these perceptions about the left, about the Democrats, whatever you want to call it. And once you start honing in on but who are these people that you're actually upset with? I saw a tweet and there was this person I saw on this viral. I'm like, who is that person? You're letting a random person on the internet kind of color entire thoughts about people who have nothing to do with them whatsoever, because you're being tricked by the right-wing media. Do not fall for these scams. And the Sydney Sweeney one, it's not the first. It's certainly not going to be the last.
Perfectly said, Brett. And then just to build on that, then you look at someone who actually does have an influence within the Republican Party, like a Laura Loomer, who is very close to Donald Trump. And then you read those tweets, as Ben just did. And I mean, those are the most heinous things in the world. And yet Donald Trump looks at that and goes, patriot. That's a patriot. I mean, maybe for Republicans in 2025, that's a patriot, but folks, that is whew. And Donald Trump, man, just the gaslighter in chief. Inflation, as we talked about last, inflation solved. Drug prices. You know what? The drug companies, they're paying you guys now. He thinks that the American people are dumb. And he thinks that people are not feeling with their wallets in their everyday lives how badly he's crippling this country. But I got to say, I'm very excited for the midterms, because unfortunately for so many Americans across this country, they are feeling the devastating impacts of this Trump regime on their daily lives. And you know what? They have a vote come the midterms, and they're going to use that vote. And I don't think it's going to continue to go the Republicans and Donald Trump's way as we look at the midterms, Ben.
I view the
that's
midterms
why
as
in the next segment, we're going to talk about how they are trying to rig the midterms and what Democrats are doing and need to do to fight back. One of the new scams we see that Donald Trump is pushing and the MAGAs are pushing are tariff rebate checks. They've moved on from the Doge dividend check. Did you all get your Doge dividend check? Remember, they were promising you $5,000, that Doge was going to save so much money. You would get a check for $5,000. Actually, there's more federal spending, significantly more federal spending this time right now than there was last year under former President Biden. So not only did Donald Trump destroy the government, remove all of the U.S. aid abroad, really cripple the soft and strong power of the United States, and just do it in such a cruel and unusual manner, but there's actually more government spending. And that's before the impacts of the disastrous budget bill are even starting to take effect. That's just right now with everything that Doge did already. But now they're saying tariff rebate checks, everybody, that we're going to make so much money taxing ourselves, because that's what a tariff is, that people are going to get checks now that way. It's all part of his scams, and we need to call those scams out. You know, I think this post by Melanie DiRaggio is worth pointing out. She goes, Trump's name is all over the Epstein files. He stripped healthcare from millions. He's taking bribes from crypto bros. He's gutting food and water safety. He built concentration camps. ICE is abducting people. He deployed the military domestically. We should also mention he's destroying weather services, destroying FEMA. He destroyed USAID. He's gutted the State Department. You can go on and on and on here. But Trump goes, Sydney Sweeney. But the broader point there is it's not just Trump saying that. It's the media deflection from all of those things that are happening. And again, they want to bait people to focus on that and not focus on what Trump has done to we the people, how Trump has screwed your lives. But judging by what happened at that WWE event, a very favorable crowd normally to Donald Trump, I think people are waking up. I think people waking up also as Donald Trump tries to cover up his connections with Epstein and does it in a very obvious way. We're going to talk about that and more. And I want to talk about the event that the MeidasTouch Network did in Phoenix, Arizona, more events that we're doing. I want to talk about what's happening in Texas. I want to talk about how the trade war against the world continues to backfire against Trump. A lot more topics to discuss, and a reminder, if you are able to become a member of this YouTube channel by clicking the join button right now, it goes a long way to help the growth of the independent media network, MeidasTouch. It's critical. We've grown without outside investors so far, and that's because of all of you, and we are so grateful for you. You can also gift memberships to as many people as you want. So there are lots of people who we understand can't afford memberships, but if you can give the gift of memberships to others, unlimited amounts, and that supports the MeidasTouch Network as well. You just click that join button, you can gift memberships, and YouTube delegates that. A reminder, as Jordy said, leave a 5-star review and leave a written review if you can. Subscribe on audio podcasts. We're climbing those charts again. So let's subscribe on the audio podcast. Subscribe here on YouTube. We've got a lot of show left. You're not going to want to miss the next segments. We will be right back after our first quick break of the show.
If there's a surefire way to wake up feeling fresh after drinks with friends, it's with pre-alcohol. Z-Biotic's pre-alcohol probiotic drink is the world's first genetically engineered probiotic. It was invented by PhD scientists to tackle rough mornings after drinking. Now here's how it works. When you drink, alcohol gets converted into a toxic byproduct in the gut. It's a buildup of this byproduct, not dehydration, that's to blame for rough days after drinking. Pre-alcohol produces an enzyme to break this byproduct down. Just remember to make pre-alcohol your first drink of the night, drink responsibly, and you'll feel your best tomorrow. Now, every time I have pre-alcohol before drinks, I notice a difference the next day. Even after a night out, I can confidently plan on having a great next day without worrying. Look, I won't lie, I was definitely a bit on the fence about pre-alcohol initially. But while hanging out with some friends this summer at a bar, I gave it a shot, and believe me, It's the real deal. I drank Z-Biotics before my first espresso martini, and you wouldn't believe how on top of my game I felt the very next morning. The final days of summer are here for you to enjoy. Whether you're heading to the beach, camping in the woods, or squeezing in one last vacation road trip, don't forget to bring Z-Biotics pre-alcohol probiotic drink. Drink a pre-alcohol before drinking and enjoy every day of summer to the fullest. Go to zbiotics.com/Meidas to learn more and get 15% off your first order when you use Meidas at checkout. ZBiotics is backed with a 100% money-back guarantee. So if you're unsatisfied for any reason, they'll refund your money, no questions asked. Remember to head to zbiotics.com/Meidas and use the code Meidas at checkout for 15% off.
This episode of the MeidasTouch Podcast is brought to you by Graza. It's that time of the year. Whether you're grilling on the deck or chilling at the beach, Graza is your one and only summertime, never blended, single origin olive oil. I love the trio. There's Frizzle with a 490-degree smoke point, ideal for grilling, frying, or crisping. Sizzle is your everyday go-to for roasting, marinating, and sauteing. And Drizzle, bold, punchy, grassy, and bright. It elevates everything from potato salad to bread, even ice cream. I've made some of the best salad dressings with that drizzle, by the way. And here's what sets it apart. Graza is extra virgin, super fresh, single varietal, and always clean and pure. No blends, just vibrant, aromatic, traceable goodness from one olive varietal from one region. Personally, I love the no mess squeeze and spray bottles. It makes cooking cleaner and quicker and with a zero mess. And I'll be honest, I was so psyched when Graza came on board as a sponsor because as someone who loves to cook, I had already been the biggest fan of their olive oils. Here's the best part. You get 10% off your first order on Graza's site, but I highly recommend grabbing the trio, Sizzle, Frizzle, and Drizzle, so you're covered for every kind of cooking. So head to graza.co and use Meidas to get 10% off the trio, which includes Sizzle, Frizzle, and Drizzle, and get to cooking your next chef quality meal. That's graza.co, code Meidas, MEIDAS.
Let's go. Shout out to our sponsors. Links in description of both the YouTube and the audio. Use the links, use the codes. If there's an exit survey, let them know we sent you. Benji, where to next?
I want to show this clip of Rosie O'Donnell in Ireland because she just nails it. She cuts through all the BS, and I think she says perfectly the way I feel, and I know many of our viewers feel about Donald Trump. Let's play this clip from this weekend. Let's play it.
It's worse every day. I feel like we're in a dystopian nightmare, and no one is doing anything about it. I don't understand how he's able to get away with the things he gets away with, breaking the law, the emoluments clause, taking bribes, blackmailing people. He's a criminal con man. And if you grew up in New York, as I did, you knew this your whole life. We watched his planes get repossessed off the runway at LaGuardia. We watched him try to sell steaks and cologne in a fake university, steal money from charities that his family can't even have a charity anymore in New York City, in the New York State, because they had stolen money from kids' cancer charities. There's no way you can look at the facts about this man and believe in him still. You have to have willful blindness.
Well, she says you have to have willful blindness. And, over the weekend, while Donald Trump was golfing and cheating while playing golf, more on that in a moment, at the WWE event at MetLife Stadium in New Jersey, someone thought it would be a good idea to show the video of Donald Trump and Triple H and sex offender Lawrence Taylor, all in the Oval Office from the end of last week, where they announced the children's fitness initiative that they would be doing together. And the audience, and I think that there is something to the WWE audience becoming more wise to Donald Trump. So I don't want to cast a broad brush and say WWE is more MAGA. I think they've been getting it. But the fact that you have 50,000 people, 60, it was a packed stadium, and pretty much everybody was booing Donald Trump. I'll show you two different angles of the booing if we've got it. Here's one of those angles. Let's play it. And here's another angle of Trump getting booed. Let's play it. Now, in that footage as well, you have, again, Triple H there. You have Lawrence Taylor, who Trump picked, someone who is a registered sex offender for sexually assaulting an underage girl. And then Lawrence Taylor's defense was, I didn't realize, her pimp didn't tell me. And that's how Lawrence Taylor's trying to defend it, which is, let me be very clear, is not a defense. That's who Donald Trump is having lead a children's fitness initiative, because Donald Trump is trying to normalize sexual predation of underage girls. So you have the booing taking place right there. And I think we're going to start seeing more of that, Brett and Jordy, in the coming week. I think American people, I don't know if the American people have had it. I don't know if the Epstein is the final straw, or, I think before that you saw the anger on the streets with the peaceful protests for no kings. You can go back to February even, when you started to see those town halls that the MAGA Republicans refused to have. But we've been seeing this anger build up, and Donald Trump's response to all of this is, I have a major announcement, a $200 million golden ballroom. I am destroying the East Wing of the White House, and I'm building a Trump ballroom. Don't worry, we're going to have private people pay for it, which again is probably going to be a lie. I want to know who has paid for the architect already. Who's paid for the renderings already? How were those produced to date? I want a list of the people, because there are clear conflicts of interest there. To Rosie O'Donnell's point, violations, I believe, of the emoluments clause as well. We talked about this on the last episode, but that's not what anybody wants. And by the way, as Donald Trump was attacking Elizabeth Warren this morning, that was part of his post. She's Pocahontas. Pocahontas needs to shut up. Pocahontas this, Pocahontas that. All she said, and Brett, I think we've got this clip of her, is Donald Trump promised to make things more affordable. We all know they're not more affordable, so we're angry. And that triggered Donald Trump to tell CNBC, why are you allowing Pocahontas to say these things? That's what he refers to her as. Here's what she said, though. Here, play this clip.
Remember, Donald Trump ran for office saying he would lower costs on day one. Cost of groceries are up, cost of housing is up, cost of health care is up. And where is Donald Trump? He's passing a signature bill to throw people off their health care so he can do tax cuts for billionaires. Democrats are the people who say billionaires actually should pay their fair share, and that we need to focus on affordability for American families. And that's what we're out there fighting for.
You mentioned, by the way, she will be speaking at the next Won't Back Down tour event, August 23rd in Omaha, Nebraska. A reminder to everybody, if you live in Omaha or you live nearby, show up. We'd love to see you there. Brett and Jordy, what do you make of all this?
When Donald Trump's back is against the wall, when his support is falling off a cliff, when he's getting in serious trouble, we've seen the way he reacts time and time again. He has to find a distraction. He has to find, he has to jangle the keys to try to take your attention off what's actually going on. And so, he's employed the strategy now for many, many years. I think sometimes people fall for it a little too much. Certainly his base falls for it all the time. They are the marks, they are conned, and they are happily conned by him every single day. But as we see Trump's back against the wall with the Epstein stuff, as we see that, really starting to pull apart his own base, divide his base, right? And we're seeing multiple instances of Donald Trump's own base being divided, whether it's with that, whether it's, all the leeway that he's been giving to Netanyahu and the actions that he's taken in Gaza, to say the least. When we see the economy continue to release numbers that are just so horrible, and we see the impacts of Trump's actions on the economy every single day, people out of work, inflation continuing, all of that. As we see, Russia and Ukraine, we see that still going on. The longer all this goes on and Trump does not have an answer for the fact that he's been a disastrous president, a horrifically bad president, the more you're going to see him try to distract with various things. And that's why Fox and Trump view the Sydney Sweeney story as being so potent, because it is the ultimate way for them to say, don't look at this. look at this. That's why you see Trump, when anything, when somebody speaks the truth about him, like a Rosie O'Donnell, when someone speaks the truth about him, like Elizabeth Warren, he has to go on the attack, right? He has to attack them, call them names, try to take people's attention and divert it into other ways. When we see, all this Epstein stuff coming out, what did Trump do? He cycled through a bunch of various kind of manufactured scandals. He tried AutoPen. He tried a few different things before landing on Obama's a criminal and the Russia investigations were a lie and those were criminal and we need to arrest everybody. And now we're reaching the next phase of that, which is the impaneling of a grand jury by Trump's Department of Justice to quote unquote investigate those moments. And so just keep looking out for all of this as we kind of proceed down this path, because Trump is in very bad shape. But I want you to make no mistake that Trump is extremely unpopular. As we see poll after poll after poll that is released, we're seeing Trump's numbers in the 30s, which is basically just his base, and getting lower and lower and lower by the day. So the things that you see on social media, online, the things that are pushed by oftentimes the legacy media, but of course all the time by right-wing media, by New York Post, by Fox, you name it. They are going to try to distract people with the culture war bullshit. They're going to try to distract with these phony investigations or these real investigations that Trump is, uplifting based on phony premises. They're going to continue to try to distract, and they're going to overstate Trump's popularity in order to try to retain power. But that's why we all have to know that there are actually many more of us than there are of them. And we need to continue to make our voices heard, no matter how these billionaires want to position their algorithms to be feeding this crap at us every single day, because that's what we're going to be seeing. So, it's time for all of us to continue to go on the offense here. That's what I like seeing as we get into the redistricting stories, the gerrymandering stories out of Texas. It's good seeing Democrats across the country now showing fight and pushing back in their own ways against these attacks that we're seeing out in Texas. But make no mistake, this is all going to get much, much, much worse. It's just going to be up for us to, decide, do we have what it takes to push back? I believe this community does. I believe the pro-democracy movement does, but do not be fooled by all the crap that they're going to throw our way.
1000%, Brett. So well said. And for me too, it's we the people have to push back and have to continue to fight for the truth, because you're not getting that with the algorithms. You're not getting that with corporate media. It's why I say Donald Trump's no great marketer. He's really not. He's not. Corporate media has been carrying water for Donald Trump forever. And if Donald Trump were left to his own device, he wouldn't be able to do anything. That's why Fox has to create the Sydney Sweeney distraction and the New York Post. They have to get that, physically put that into Donald Trump's brain as another thing to try and help distract people with, and Obama and the AutoPens and this. And it's like, no, man, the country wants the Epstein files released. Why? Because that's some serious stuff. And you know what? You said that you were going to release them. What happened, Donnie? You saw your name on there time and time again and got cold feet? That's kind of odd, bud. You should definitely release those files, man, because the American people are fed up, and it's distraction, Brett, after distraction after distraction, and it all just goes nowhere. And it's meant to keep you exhausted. It's meant to keep you down, and it's meant to just want to put your head in the sand and look away, but don't. And I know this community refuses to look away, and that we're always calling for the release of those Epstein files, once again, as Donald Trump promised he'd release.
I'll put it this way, just quickly. What do you think the media, and I include right-wing media and I include mainstream media in this, what do you think they covered more out of these stories? Did they cover the fact that Donald Trump announced a kids initiative while inviting somebody who is, had raped a 16-year-old girl? I'll just say it out loud. Yeah. Do you think they spoke about that more? Or do you think they spoke about Sydney Sweeney wearing blue jeans? Honestly. Which one got more coverage?
Yeah, I think that the Lawrence Taylor story, although we emphasize it a lot on this platform, and fortunately more people watch this platform than cable news, it was maybe a blip on a cable news network once, and they have not been focused on it at all. And then they're done talking about that. It's like, dude, you had a registered sex offender in the White House who you've appointed to lead a children's initiative on a fitness test. And that's not even what are we talking about here? And I just pull back for a second, right? Jordy, you hit the nail on the head here. Release the Epstein files, which somehow for Donald Trump became, okay, you want me to release Ghislaine Maxwell from prison? No, release the Epstein files. Okay, I'll release Epstein's co-conspirator, sex trafficker, one of my best friends from the late 80s through the 2000s, pretty much. I'll release her. No. We don't want you to release the sex trafficker, okay? The convicted felon. Okay, well, here's what I'm going to do for you. I'm going to move her from Tallahassee into Camp Bryant. I'm going to waive the requirement that you can't be a sex offender if you want to be in the minimum security facility. So now we'll allow a sex trafficker there. Oh, and by the way, I can pardon her. And now all of Ghislaine's like influencers who are also MAGA people, they're all like, we think Ghislaine's going to go. This is a great day for Ghislaine. And it's like, huh? So that's part of how Donald Trump is using this. He's like, now I have an opportunity to release Ghislaine. It should be noted as well that Congress, the MAGA Republicans in GOP and the MAGA GOP Republicans, or GOP, they've canceled her deposition, which was scheduled for August 11th. Remember how I reported how her lawyer, David Oscar Marcus, put conditions on her deposition? One of the conditions that she gave to Congress is that she wouldn't do it until after the Supreme Court rules on her petition for a new trial or to dismiss her case. The House Republicans, remember how they got outmaneuvered by Democrats who issued the subpoena for her deposition on August 11th? Well, the way the MAGA Republicans tried to get around that now, because she'll probably just invoke her Fifth Amendment rights against self-incrimination, and then people will be like, wait a minute, she didn't invoke for Donald Trump, and now she's invoking for the Congress, and you gave her immunity, and Congress, what the hell is going on here? They said, okay, we're negotiating, we're cooperating with her, so we'll push her deposition sometime later, indefinitely postponed. Go back to what MAGA Mike said 2 weeks ago. Remember the words he used? We need to give Trump the space to do what he has to do with the Epstein files. An exact quote from MAGA Mike. Give Trump space. Well, when you gave him the space, what did a criminal do? More criminal stuff, more fraud stuff. More stuff that sexual abusers do. That's what Trump does with space. So he goes after Obama. He impanels a grand jury. He tells people to focus on 2016 stuff. They start talking about Sydney Sweeney. What's the latest one today? Sean Duffy, Donald Trump's transportation secretary who got famous from Real World Road Rules Challenge. We're going to do nuclear reactors on the moon, everybody. Let's focus on that. It's just a massive BS sandwich that they keep serving to the American people so that Donald Trump can cover up his dark past connections. It's why you need to keep the pressure on. When you keep the pressure on, Donald Trump's not good under pressure. This is how he responds, frantically, panics. He makes all of these decisions, even from sending his deputy attorney general, former criminal defense attorney, to meet with Ghislaine Maxwell. Think about that. I've done a whole other video about how Donald Trump's behavior here may not be covered by absolute immunity that the Supreme Court gave him because it involves his prior past conduct that predates his time in office. And could that be viewed as personal conduct as well? When we go back, I want to show footage that when we come back, I want to show footage we've unearthed here at the MeidasTouch Network that we posted earlier today, which has gone mega viral, about Donald Trump talking about hiring inexperienced 17 and 18-year-old girls, and that he's like an alcoholic when it comes to these girls. He can't control himself, basically. You could hear him in his own words. I'll play that for you. Let's talk about what's happening in Texas. And a few other topics if we have time for it. Let's take our last quick break of the day. A reminder, if you could become a member of this YouTube channel, it is so critical to the growth of the MeidasTouch Network. We've grown without outside investors. You can gift memberships to people as well. Just hit join. If you're already a member, gift memberships to people. It's a major way to help us grow, and we're so grateful for it. And we know a lot of people can't afford memberships. So if you are fortunate to be able to afford it, gift others memberships as well. YouTube delegates those gift memberships. All right, last break of the day. We'll be right back for the home stretch of the MeidasTouch Podcast.
So you ever try hiring someone and end up buried in a mountain of resumes that all start to look the same? Hey, we're a growing company here at MeidasTouch. I know the feeling. You're searching for that one standout candidate, the needle in the haystack, and all you get are hay bales. But not with ZipRecruiter. ZipRecruiter finds amazing candidates for you fast. And right now, you could try it for free at ZipRecruiter.com/Meidas. Here's how it works. The moment you post a job, ZipRecruiter's smart technology gets to work, instantly matching you with top talent who have the skills and experience you're looking for. And once you found a few great fits, ZipRecruiter makes it super easy to reach out with their pre-written invite to apply message, so you can personally connect with top candidates right away and get them in the door faster. Ditch the other hiring sites and let ZipRecruiter find what you're looking for, the needle in the haystack. 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. Try it for free at this exclusive web address, ZipRecruiter.com/Meidas. Again, that's ZipRecruiter.com/Meidas, MEIDAS. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire.
In business, they say you can have better, cheaper, or faster, but you only get to pick 2. What if you could have all 3 at the same time? That's exactly what Cohere Thomson Reuters and Specialized Bike have since they upgraded to the next generation of cloud, Oracle Cloud Infrastructure. OCI is the blazing fast platform for your infrastructure, database, application development, and AI needs, where you can run any workload in a high availability, consistently high performance environment and spend less than you would with other clouds. How is it faster? OCI's block storage gives you more operations per second. Cheaper? OCI costs up to 50% less for compute, 70% less for storage, and 80% less for networking. Better? In test after test, OCI customers report lower latency and higher bandwidth versus other clouds. This is the cloud built for AI and all your biggest workloads. Right now, with zero commitment, try OCI for free. Head to oracle.com/Meidas. That's oracle.com/Meidas. 4 companies control over 80% of the U.S. meat industry, and China now controls the largest portion of U.S. pork. These companies are using mobster-like tactics to crush American family farms. And with the additives they're putting in our food, Americans are stuck with sketchy meat. So what can you do about this? Let me tell you about a company that's coming up swinging on behalf of the American family farms and your family's food security. Moink. The business is simple. Moink's meat comes from animals raised outdoors where a pig is free to be a pig. Their farmers are given an honest day's pay for an honest day's work. And they deliver meat straight to your doorstep at prices you can actually afford. Born and raised and harvested right here in the United States of America. Moink is helping save rural America. I love it, and I know you will too. Support American family farms and join the Moink movement today at moinkbox.com/MeidasTouch right now and get free bacon for a year. That's 1 year of the best bacon you'll ever taste, but for a limited time. Spelled MOINK box.com/MeidasTouch. That's moinkbox.com/MeidasTouch. Let's go. Links in description of both the YouTube and the audio. Use the links, use the codes, let them know we sent you if there's an exit survey. Benji, where to next?
Let's go back to 2006. I think I was still an undergrad at that time, my last year before going into law school. Donald Trump was a failed business person at that time. He was giving speeches, which I think he pretended that he was getting millions of dollars for, but it turned out in a deposition he was not making that amount of money. I think he was making a few $100,000. And not a horrible way to make money, but certainly, yet again, Donald Trump lying about numbers. That's kind of a ongoing theme in this guy's life. So as he's speaking at this event at something called the Learning Annex, he gets asked this question, which seems to be a planted question as well, from a young individual in the crowd. And she says, how could I get a job working at Trump airplanes or on your jet? A disgusting back and forth, or just disgusting statement from Donald Trump ensues. I'll just show you what happens in this video, and then we'll talk about it. But it involves Donald Trump talking about inexperienced 17 or 18-year-old girls who he can't control himself around. Apparently, he's like an alcoholic when it comes to girls. Here, play this clip.
My name is Juliet. I have a question. My question is, how many jets do you have, and how would I apply to be a flight attendant?
I think she's hired. You're hired. Now, I had a case. It was very interesting. A beautiful girl who was 17 or 18 applied to be a waitress. She's so beautiful. She's like a world-class beauty. Like the young lady who just asked a question about the actors. She's so beautiful. And my people came, she said, "But Mr. Trump, she has no experience." So I interviewed her anyway, because she was so good. And I said, "Let me ask you, do you have any experience?" She goes, "No, sir." I said, "When can you start?" You can work at my plane anytime. Yeah. See, now, she worked in my plane. That's like a death wish for me, right? That's like an alcoholic. I have many friends that are wonderful people. They're alcoholics. You put scotch in front of them. It's like, this would be my form of alcoholism. Okay, yes, ma'am.
He said that would be his form of alcoholism, referring to the 17 and 18-year-old girls, if you put beautiful girls in front of him. It was also a weird phrasing that he used there. Did you hear how he described that 17 or 18-year-old girl? He goes, "I had a case." Just the strange way he refers to, right? He referred to Virginia Giuffre, who was 16 or 17 years old, as saying she was stolen from me. When he was asked about last week why he and Epstein, that she was stolen from me. We did a whole report on this earlier this morning. A guy named John Larson did a good Substack on this. He was able to dig up some of the advertisements for people to be hired at that Mar-a-Lago spa. They wanted young, attractive college girls to be working at the spa. At that time, Virginia Giuffre didn't even graduate high school, also had no experience. They made her wear at the spa like a very tight mini dress and a skin-tight shirt at the age of 16. And she was basically, in her deposition testimony, Giuffre describes herself as just sitting outside of the spa, like reading a book. Like her job was to make tea and to kind of fold up pieces of paper in like triangles. And then very shortly after she was hired, wearing this skin-tight, very short skirt and a skin-tight polo shirt, Epstein and Ghislaine walked in and said, "Oh, you're working here. We'd like to introduce you to Epstein." So this whole funnel as well of how Donald Trump would hire these underage, girls or people who Epstein would then look for. In that same piece, one of the things that was discussed in 2007, the New York Post article in 2007, this happened. The article talked about how Epstein would procure the girls from Mar-a-Lago. And that was a 2007 report from an anonymous Mar-a-Lago source. And then that same source said, but then Donald Trump kicked Epstein out, to which Epstein responded, "I was just at an event in Mar-a-Lago in 2007. So, I mean, just think about what I just showed you there. I mean, that alone, like, and people go, for anyone who's like, well, why does that matter? Why does that matter? Because what are we talking about? Of course it matters. This is the presidency of the United States. Someone who behaved like that, we would not allow to, again, this shouldn't be a political thing. Oh, the Dems feel this way. The Republicans feel this way. No. Human beings, as I said, it shouldn't be red or blue. It should be good or evil. We should say, what the hell did we just watch? Wait a minute. You're that? Wait a minute. You're bringing someone who was a convicted sexual predator of underage girls to now go into the White House and be the leader of the Children's Fitness Initiative? Huh? And there's just so many examples of this over and over again. So the question is what do we do? How do we fight back? Well, I think one of the ways we fight back is what we're building here, the MeidasTouch Network on digital. But I think we have to fight back by being at live events, meeting people where they are. And one of the things we did on over the weekend on Sunday is we were in Phoenix with the great folks at MoveOn. We were the media sponsor there. MeidasTouch Network Gen Z reporter Adam Mockler was the host. We had Senator Murphy, Congresswoman Crockett, Congresswoman Ansari there. We're going to be in Omaha, Nebraska next on August 23rd. Pull up that flyer one more time, Brett. You should go to won'tbackdowntour.com to learn about the Omaha event. But let me just show you what went down at the Phoenix event. Let's play the clip.
A lot of you might know me from my YouTube channel. I'm the Gen Z face of MeidasTouch. Who knows MeidasTouch in here? When I look into this crowd, I already see a bunch of people from different ages, different backgrounds, all coming together for one common goal, and that is to win back the house. There is nothing more powerful than like-minded people coming together in one room, under one roof, to show what democracy looks like. This is what democracy looks like, everybody. These MAGA freaks who are claiming they are America first, that is not America first. I see diversity in this crowd. Diversity is America. We are America. This crowd is America right here. And in America, democracy is important. We are currently building on the ground and online movements at the same time so we can beat this gangster regime and stop what they are doing. Now, listen, when it comes to on the ground stuff, it's very important to be on the ground, to be organizing. We had some protests in June. How many of you were at the No Kings protests? And I have a question. If we did another protest next month, how many of you would stick it to the regime? This is the energy. This is the energy that we need. This is the energy that will push us over the finish line. A bunch of like-minded individuals pushing back. Now, aside from the on-the-ground movements, we have online movements. We have the MeidasTouch Network that is currently beating Joe Rogan. Beating Joe Rogan. And it's because of you all. We are taking power from the people who have been screwing this country over for decades, and we are returning it to you all. MeidasTouch is online beating Fox News. You guys are on the ground beating MAGA, beating Fox News. We are beating Fox News at MeidasTouch. That is insane. There is still hope. There is still a lot of hope. They thought that we were going to be done. They thought that you were going to be done. You were going to submit. You were going to lay down. That's what they thought. That's what they wanted. We won't back down.
Powerful stuff right there. Now let's talk about what's happening in Texas. You had the Texas legislature at the
let me just say quickly, Adam Mockler, just absolutely incredible job. He really brought the house down at that event. Follow Adam also. Adam is an incredible contributor here at the MeidasTouch Network. Go follow him on YouTube. Go check out his podcast. Adam is doing absolutely incredible work, and the energy in that room was absolutely electric. And when you go into those rooms, you could feel it. I think you could feel it in that video just by watching it. Mm-hmm. But you could see that there is a movement of people who, won't back down. And that's what I love to see right now. And all of us right now, no matter how hard things get, we cannot back down. We have to keep fighting. Ben, this is a perfect example too. What's going on? And Jordy, you want to say something?
Wait,
quickly?
Sorry, real quick. I just want to build on Mockler and the folks in that video. I mean, they got me wanting to run through a brick wall right now. That was it right there. I can't. That's exciting to see. And hold on, I do also just want to talk about that video that we played just before Donald Trump in 2006. I just want to talk about it just really quickly because what was? I mean, it shouldn't shock me that Donald Trump has videos like this on the internet, but I am still amazed that you guys continue to unearth these videos and how many, frankly, exist. That is some appalling stuff that is just floating out there on the internet. And I'm glad that we've been able to share it here on the show and also on social, because that thing is catching on like wildfire out there. It is the definition of depravity. I mean, just a total sleaze, Brett.
When you see clips like that, and when you hear about all of Donald Trump's conduct and his behavior, like we know throughout history, oftentimes when people have been exposed for the very same behavior that Trump has been proven to have engaged in, people get arrested. People go to prison for this sort of stuff. And what we've noticed, though, as you see that clip, one of the things that I think so disturbs me is like the audience's reaction to it there, and just the very idea that Trump feels so comfortable in that space to say things like that. And it really, you could draw a straight line from that to Donald Trump and everything that this Republican Party is doing right now, everything that this White House is doing right now. Because Donald Trump, for decades and decades and decades, has been coddled by the institutions that should have actually held him responsible for his many crimes. Institution after institution brushed him off as a joke. They let him get away with some heinous things over and over and over again. And so the natural end of all of that is like the biggest institution of them all, the White House, the United States government. I really don't think the behavior that we see currently out of this government, out of the Supreme Court, out of the Republican Party is really any different than the people in that crowd laughing off what Trump was saying there or defending what he was saying there. And we just see it time and time again throughout history. And that's how Donald Trump has been able to get away with so many things.
It's really damaging the country in such profound ways, because you have this percentage, portion of the country, whatever it is now, 35%, 37%, that behaves this way and that mimics that conduct. And that behavior, though, can also be a way to push people away from politics, because it's so gross and grotesque to be like, well, if that's politics, I don't really want to. No, that's not politics. That's gross behavior. Okay. And we need your voices, even if you don't like politics. Like, I'm not someone who goes and really loves like the intricacies of like the horse race, I should say, of politics. I don't like the horse race of it. And like, I like people, I like human beings, and I like calling out the bad behavior and trying to expose it with the skills I have as a former litigator and point it out. But like, that behavior is abhorrent. And the thing is that there's a lot of people who are like that, who gravitate to what Trump's doing because they behave that way. And those are people Trump wants to protect on the Epstein list as well, in addition to himself. And, you know, you have people like Jim Jordan. Like, why is he a non-licensed lawyer, the head of the Judiciary Committee, right, that oversees like judicial stuff, like law stuff? Oh, wait a minute. He was the guy who covered up sex abuse scandals, and he was like in the shower and saw it happening. And then he threatened some of the students not to come forward with their allegations and said it would ruin him if they came forward. I mean, this is who these people are. And that's why they're a crew and they work together to do this stuff. And we need your voices out there. We need you to call this stuff out. I mean, you look what's happening in Texas right now and the unlawful gerrymandering scam that Trump and Texas wants to do. Texas already had an unlawful map. The existing Texas map is unlawful. It's just been taking years of litigation in order for that case to work its way through our court system, because the Supreme Court really gutted the Voting Rights Act, which used to require something called pre-clearance, where your map had to first be approved by an independent Department of Justice or a 3-judge panel. Well, Trump and the MAGAs and the right-wing Supreme Court destroyed all of that. So now states are allowed to come up with any maps they want. You can challenge it. A civil rights group can sue to block it, but then it takes years of litigation. Then the right-wing Supreme Court has something called the Purcell principle, where they go, whoa. We're so close to an election. And by the way, we're always so close to an election, right? Because they happen every 2 years. Like, we're so close to an election now that we can't listen to this case. We won't hear it. We'll allow the unlawful map to go into effect. And then even where the MAGA Republicans lose and a map is determined to be racist or an unlawful gerrymandered map, they then don't follow the orders where they have to find like a map maker to redraw it because they refuse to redraw the map lawfully. So then they spend another 2 years fighting that. Then it goes back up and then it gets handed back down. Then they fight that. They fight all of the orders. So they now, because they've gutted the Voting Rights Act from the 60s, they can keep these unlawful maps for decades, like a decade now. And that's why people who were saying, if you gut the Voting Rights Act, the formula behind it in pre-clearance, this is what's going to happen. This is why on a bipartisan basis, Congress came up with the Voting Rights Act in the 1960s, because they recognized this was a problem. You know, the same way like in Canada and Australia and in places in Europe also, how they have rules that stop the oligarchs from manipulating elections. I mean, just think about how the Canada system works. You don't have dark money or big money influencing the elections, right? You have snap elections. The money doesn't come from these outside groups. Real independent groups regulate. They look at what we have here and they're like, what the hell is your system like? And our system has been infiltrated by the Federalist Society and people even before Trump, dating back decades to get this result. Trump is just the person saying, I don't give a crap what the Constitution says. Let's do it. Let's do whatever is unlawful. So with all of that as background, Texas wants to call an emergency session, not to deal with the floods, not to deal with the damaged infrastructure, no, to gerrymander the map to remove an additional 5 Democratic seats from the already unlawful gerrymandered map. Now, in states like California and New York, whether by way of the state constitutions or otherwise, Democratic states have been having independent commissions, because Democrats wanted to play by the rules and play fair and good faith. And let's try to, Democrats feel like, well, we'll win in competitive districts, but let's make sure the independent commissions have their say because we want to play by the rules. And then Trump and MAGA are like, ha, 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 we've got rid of pre-clearance under the Voting Rights Act. Let's just go for it. Eliminate all Democratic seats. Let's do it. Let's fight the battle. We've got our friends on the Supreme Court. Let's do it. So that's the background of what's happened. So Texas calls this emergency session. The Democratic state representatives deprived Texas of a quorum. Because in order to have an emergency session, you have to have a certain amount of people there. The Democratic state representatives go to Illinois, where they're under the protection of the governor of Illinois, Governor Pritzker, right there. So they're all in Illinois. In Texas, they then issue a resolution calling for the arrest of all of the Democratic state representatives and put a bounty on the Democratic state representatives to throw them in prison and remove them from their legislative seats. So that's what was voted on earlier today. The Democratic state legislators who are in Illinois right now from Texas, they're saying, well, we're not leaving Illinois. We're not going back right now. Meanwhile, you have Governor Hochul in New York saying, this is war. If this is what you're doing in Texas, then in New York, we're going to get rid of our independent commission, and we'll do the same thing in New York. We'll pick up Democratic seats. You have Governor Newsom in California saying, okay, if this is what you're doing, then we'll get rid of all of the Republican seats. And California will be like that also. And so now what Trump has created by ripping to shreds any good faith and any goodwill is this. This is the state of the United States of America right now. And these are the new rules. And Democrats have to fight fire with fire. It's what Governor Hochul said. I give her credit for saying. She goes, we're at war. We're at war. And that's a true way of framing it. There is, I don't know if you want to call it a cold civil war that's not necessarily defined by borders, but by MAGA attacking the constitutional norms that exist. But that's out there, and we can't cover our eyes and close our ears to the reality of that's what's taking place. So we'll keep everybody posted, but it's not, are we in a constitutional crisis? We're beyond that. To your point, Brett, I mean, show this photo if we have it, because Viktor Orban does the same stuff as Donald Trump. The way Orban removed the democratic norms in Hungary, kind of using the same MAGA playbook. even at the same time or before MAGA was MAGA, he's building himself the palace. The way Donald Trump's building himself the palace, as Hungary is the poorest nation in the European Union right now because these policies don't freaking work. Compare Hungary to the success that Poland is having in their economy. These dictators like the Orbans and the Putins, they build golden palaces to themselves. That's where Trump and CPAC hold all of their conventions now, like in Hungary, because they identify with these types of leaders. By the way, who the type of people who fire these statisticians, the way Donald Trump fires the Bureau of Labor statisticians, people like Putin and Erdogan and Orban and people like that. So we're past constitutional crisis. There is authoritarian regime. MAGA Mike, Jim Jordan, they don't want democracy at all. And they're pushing fascism. And then they go back into their playing the victim, right? And they're like, oh, the Democrats are rigging the map. Oh, the Democrats are rigging the map. They're coming after us. No, you did it. You did it first, you freaking sociopaths. You did it. You forced a response. Oh, they're coming after us. Wah, 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 wah. And they act like a baby. I don't know if you saw this as well, but it was like when Jamison Greer, the trade representative, was on the weekend shows. We don't need to play the clip. I'll just describe it.
Hold on. I don't want to move on. I don't want to move on to a trade war topic while we're still talking about the.
No, I'm not going to go on. The point I'm making is a playing the victim point, not trade war point at all.
Got it.
It's a playing the victim point, which is then Jamison Greer goes, oh, Canada retaliated against us. That's why we're going after them. And it's like, you attacked them. It's like you do what you do in Texas. You do all of these things. And then when anybody stands up to you, they go, wah, 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 wah. Look at us. That's the point I want you to make.
Yeah. And the point I want to make is that we could have nuanced perspectives on these topics, right? And I'll tell you exactly how I feel. I'm against gerrymandering in general, right? I think it's horrible that politicians are able to choose their own voters, but that does not mean that we could unilaterally disarm and you just allow parties to do that while you just stand by and let them run you over with a truck. I mean, that makes zero sense to me. So I'm happy that you have governors like Newsom and Hochul who are speaking out and are saying, oh, if you're going to do that, well, we're going to do that too. And I want to remind everybody also, because Democrats are so graded on a curve and they're not actually given any credit for the things that they actually do try to push. I want to remind you to one of the first things that the Democrats tried to do back in 2021 after President Biden took office then. They tried to pass what? The Freedom to Vote Act. This is one of their big pieces of legislation that they tried to put forward. And so you could have all these Republicans whine the way Ben is describing, right? Whine and say, oh, but the Democrats gerrymander. Oh, but we're doing this because of Newsom and this. Bullshit, first of all. They're doing it in response to you the same way that you try to act like, the Epstein stuff is to distract from the Obama investigations. Give me a break. We all know how linear time works. But that also fails to bring up the fact that in 2021, this Freedom to Vote Act banned partisan gerrymandering. It was one of the big provisions of the act. And it wasn't like some lefty, out there far left bill, as like the Republicans like to explain. This was a bill to reform our election system. It banned partisan gerrymandering. It required voter ID, something that Republicans like to say that Democrats are totally against. Guess what? Not a single Republican voted for the Freedom to Vote Act. That would have solved all of these issues. So we need to be able to call out their hypocrisy while they are making up things about the Democratic Party. And in a lot of situations, the Democratic Party, certainly they deserve a lot of criticism, and we are certainly not shy about criticizing them where it's necessary, but they also deserve some cover as well. And they deserve people coming to their defense when it's situations like this, like when the Democrats had a bill in Congress, in the Senate, that would have codified a ban on partisan gerrymandering, and the Republicans blocked it. That's something that we need to be calling out here. And you could run that, by the way, on every issue that Republicans try to pin on the Democrats. Case in point, the border, right? Who put forward the border bill? It was President Biden's big initiative. He got with a conservative Republican senator, a very conservative Republican senator, James Lankford. They put together this bipartisan border bill, something that was probably honestly far more strict than a lot of Democrats even wanted, honestly. But Democrats were on board to pass this because they actually wanted to fix the issue. What did Republicans do? They voted it down. They threw every name at Democrats in the book. They had Trump attacking James Lankford for working with Democrats. Trump openly said that he wanted to go against that bill because it would help the Democrats. He didn't care about helping the country. He just wanted to make the border and make these situations as bad as possible to help with his election chances. We see Republicans cynically using all of these issues time and time again, rather than approaching them as, how do we actually solve this issue? How do we solve the issue on the border? How do we solve the issue of partisan gerrymandering? They take it and they try to weaponize it to use it against Democrats and use it to get themselves elected and entrench themselves with power. We see it every single time on every single bill. So we got to call it out.
And it shouldn't be normalized. Like in other functioning democracies, there can be very heated debates. But in a lot of other functioning democracies, you know, you take a look at what's happening in Canada right now, and by and large, all of the premiers come together with the federal government, albeit Alberta Danielle Smith's a little bit is the one maybe exception there because she's Maple MAGA, but they come together and try to figure out solutions. You have Prime Minister Carney reaching out to the former Conservative Prime Minister Stephen Harper. What do you suggest I do? You've got Prime Minister Carney getting advice from the Premier of Ontario, Doug Ford. What do you think I should do? Let's all figure this out together, right? You have, you know, on the far left, the New Democratic Party, the NDP, someone like David Eby from British Columbia. You know, he's speaking to on the right, someone like a Doug Ford, who's speaking on kind of the center left to Prime Minister Carney. How do we, you know, they elect like the best economist in the world right now during this moment, which is such a brilliant move when Trump is destroying the world economy to literally pick the world's top economist in Prime Minister Carney. It's a smart decision, right? To figure out how to fix it. I mean, America picked this guy who's covering up as a sexual abuser, you know, a felon, like the worst person, and Canada picked the right person for the moment. What we have here in the United States, I just want to let you know that this endless loop of hate, this endless loop of fascism, this endless loop of MAGA Republicans pretending to be conservative, running up the deficit, being the arsonist, destroying the social structures and fabric, Democrats coming in and trying to fix it, then the arsonist blaming the fire department, and then it goes back and forth, and it's a cycle where things aren't getting done other than the United States losing its power as China and as other countries are rising in power. I just want to let you know, we can get out of this cycle. We really can. That's one of the things that I hope that we can do here at the MeidasTouch Network is focus on a shared humanity first and foremost and get out of this cycle. And rather than the horse race that cable news tries to portray, we can focus on humanity and empathy and bringing people together and focusing on solutions and remembering that we should love thy neighbor and we should care and want to help people, that we shouldn't want to see migrants disappeared off the street and thrown into alligator concentration camps or concentration camps at all, or be treated the way they are. We shouldn't want to see people suffering. We shouldn't need to say, who do we help first? The billionaires get even richer? No, we should figure out how do we make things just more affordable for human beings so they can live their life with dignity, that when they have a job, they can afford to buy a home. That's what they deserve, not the billionaire to get his 8th Gulfstream 6 or whatever, or Bombardier private jet. What are we talking about here, folks? That's what we need to focus on. That's what the MeidasTouch Network movement is all about. And that's why we need to stick together. We need to keep the pressure up, and we need to be clear in the way we talk about things. Good versus evil, right versus wrong, facts versus lies. That's the MeidasTouch Network way. And, you know, you just take a look here. I'll leave you with this. As Donald Trump was golfing in Bedminster, cheating yet again. Donald Trump claimed he scored a 69 on an 18-course tournament. For those on audio, you can see him just like giving himself the putt and pretending the ball goes in, but he's just like hitting it 3 or 4 times without actually doing the putt. And just for all of you know, when Donald Trump, I looked this up. So if Donald Trump claims he got a 69 was the number that he picked to win the latest golf championship, okay? A 69 means that on the 18-hole course, at the age of 79, he got 3s and 4s on basically every single hole. The Guinness Book of Records had somebody who was in their low 70s score I think it was a 79 or a 78 or something in 1944 is what I saw from the Guinness Book of World Records. So this would have meant not that Donald Trump would have got the greatest score in the history of golf for anybody near his age. And we saw last week him cheating. We saw this week him cheating. As I said, I go, how is this even fun? Like, how is this even an enjoyable thing? To which lots of people said, for Donald Trump, it isn't, it's not about fun. It's literally just about his ego. And it literally is just about the one sport where it's based on like an honor system. He just makes up the score. He announces that he wins. And the White House official account posts it. One of the things that I think is great, though, is that people were responding to that White House account saying, we know he's a cheater. What are you talking about? How embarrassing is this? How embarrassing has the White House become? The White House account has become. It's embarrassing right now to be in the United States of America with this regime. They're an embarrassment. They are an embarrassment to our history. They're an embarrassment to democracy. They're an embarrassment to decency. These are sick, vile people. There's no other way to describe it. We'll call it out each and every day. A reminder, if you can become a member of the MeidasTouch YouTube channel, please become a member now. It goes a long way to help our network grow. So please become a member right now. Hit subscribe and hit join. Make sure you're subscribed, then hit join and gift memberships to people as well. That would be really helpful. If you like what we're building here at the MeidasTouch Network, please do that. As Jordy said earlier in the show, leave a 5-star review and leave a written review. We're close to 50,000 written reviews. That helps with the algorithm. If you leave a written review on audio, it stops also those Rogan bots and trolls from giving us negative reviews. So please do that if you can. Check out our Substack at MeidasPlus.com. Hopefully we see you in Omaha if you live in that area on August 23rd. It's the Won't Back Down tour. You can check out information about the Won't Back Down tour as well. We'll put it in our description below. Also, we do that with MoveOn. It's been great spending this time with you. We're rolling up our sleeves. We're keeping the pressure up. We're going to keep unearthing new videos. We're going to keep breaking stories. We appreciate you all so much. Jordy, I'll let you take it away.
Shout out to the Meidas Mighty. Can't get enough Meidas? Check out the Meidas Plus Substack for ad-free articles, reports, podcasts, daily recaps from Ron Filipkowski, and more. Sign up for free now at MeidasPlus.com.